Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This is week 8, so we're going to do a couple of things today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of do an update on our LAB, control the algae problem on our mini blocks. So we're going to walk through that and take a look at that. Then we're also going to be making something called RockDust water, and we're going to talk about that and what that means and how we use that to help fertilize our seedlings in the greenhouse, plus your houseplants. So let's get to it. Okay, we did a treatment of LAB, actually 2 treatments on this tray at this point. This is our Lisianthus tray, and it definitely did erase, or should not erase isn't the right term, let's put it this way. It did not eradicate, but it stopped it from getting worse. The molds that were growing are not growing anymore. You can still see the remnants of it, a little gray. But the plants themselves, the ones that were healthy when we started the treatment, are growing. Some of the ones that were struggling at the time when the treatment was started some of them are pulling out, but some of them just aren't going to make it at all. It seems like the ones that were on the edge of the tray were doing better than the ones in the center, but that could just be because we have 3 different varieties and one was a little weenier than the other.
Or it could be airflow, because the sides don't seal up as tight as at the ends.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. So it's been a week since we treated it, so we're just going to do it again. Let me get my spray adjusted right. I want to make certain I'm not blasting these guys off. We're just going to mist these blocks, the top. We've been actually not watering or fertilizing these guys during this period of time. As long as the blocks had moisture in them, we've kind of let them be. I don't want to put any extra fertility in here that's going to maybe, stoke the algae anymore. And that's just basically where we're at. So we are definitely, this is on the schedule for this week to bump up into the 6-packs.
The question that we've seen a lot has been, do you prick away the soil that is mossy or moldy, or do you just leave it?
If it was a larger plant, something that was a little bigger and a little more vigorous, you might be able to get away with trying to break off maybe because it's just like a coating that's on the top of the block. It's not really gone down deep into the block itself. So I might, massage it off a little bit if it was, but then you start getting into the integrity of the block and disturbing the roots and all this other kind of stuff. And with Lisianthus, I guess my concern is that it will actually end up causing more damage than good. And so I think if what we do when we bump up, we put some really fine vermiculite on the top of the blocks, that it will help out. Okay, so then the next one we did that was really bad was a Foxglove tray, and it's not any worse, but the plants themselves are actually growing. And I guess, from the standpoint, we did stop the slime mold. It's basically kind of down to the point where it's disappearing. So I guess we're good about getting rid of that. This will be the second treatment on these guys. And so we'll just, again, moisten the blocks. Now, we didn't fertilize these guys and we didn't water them this week because they still stayed damp, so that was okay. We got them out here where there was good airflow. And we're just going to, continue to kind of see if we can, get these guys. I guess I got a weed in here. I don't need that. Interesting how that got in there. So these guys, for the most part, will be ready to bump up, I think, in another week. They're starting to put on their first true leaves at this point. And so we'll just keep an eye on the moisture level. If there's enough moisture in the block for the plant to continue to grow. I don't want to use this LAB solution any more than once a week. It's pretty powerful stuff, so I don't want to cause any other problems. It doesn't hurt the plants, when you're spacing it out at least 5 days. But if you kept hitting it every day going, well, I don't see any difference, so I just put on more. It's not what you need to do. It's a matter of, stopping it, and that's really the goal here. You're not going to eradicate that with this solution. The other thing is, what did we mix in here? Just to review that again, this is 1 tablespoon per 1 quart of water. So it's a 1 to 50 dilution, and we have a cat who's decided that she wants to come in and spend time with us. Anyway, that's kind of it. That's the dilution level. It's 1 to 50. So whatever your container is that you want to use it in, you know, if you're using it in a hand sprayer or something different like that, that's kind of what you're going to shoot for. Okay, so that's where we are at this point. We stopped it from getting worse, so I guess that's a victory. So the next thing we're going to do here today is we're mixing up another batch of what I call RockDust water. Orange Dam, they had a term for it called phyllite water, which was a form of using ground up metamorphic rocks, similar to what would be azomite, or in our case, we're not going to be using azomite today. We're going to be using ground basalt rock, which is really similar to the parent rock that is made up our soil here in the Willamette Valley. So it's a volcanic and rock in nature, and is something that is useful in applying in small amounts ground up minerals that the microbiology can use. Now, the reason why we're doing this in a liquid instead of just applying rock dust to the plants themselves or to the soil itself is when you get ground up materials like this rock dust, it's measured, it's screened to what they call like a measurement minus. Okay, so what that means is anything that is from a certain measurement of particle size down is included. So when you're dealing with rock dust, you're dealing with stuff now that you're talking about getting down into micrometer in size or even smaller. Very, very fine particulates. So if you may have noticed is like when you apply a rock dust or a powdered type thing, you don't even have to have a windy day and you get a certain amount of it that just poofs up and just blows away. Those are very fine particles that are easily carried by any kind of, you know, even gentle air currents. And what we're trying to do is capture most of those and keep those in a liquid, and then using that liquid after the bulk, the heavier particles have settled, what's left in the liquid are those small nanoparticles, if you want to call them that. They're not really nano in size, but they're very, very small. And we'll show you an example of some made up, but we use that to help supplement minerals for the plants themselves. It's very useful in when you mix it together with like a worm tea extract and use that in fertilizing our starts. So this one though is going to be taken down to one of our hoop houses because we're going to be using it in there when we do transplants. So the key to it is a real simple formula. It's not complex at all. It's just 1 pound of the rock dust per gallon of water that you make. So whatever your container is, you just got to keep that ratio in mind. And you have to have a way, if you're using container, think about it, you're going to have a way that you're going to be able to agitate to the bottom of the container. Because what you're going to do is you're going to be using that over a number of times. You can probably use it once a week. You could refill it up, stir it up, and use it again in a few days. And then do it again and do that like on about a once a week basis for at least a month, maybe a little longer, because there's that many particles that when you re-agitate it will get suspended in the solution. So it's a good way of capturing everything that you possibly can. And when it's done, when it's finished, and you no longer have any more materials in solution, what you're going to see is absolutely clear water. And it's basically almost going to be like a sand at the bottom, which is certainly fine to add to your compost pile or do whatever you want with it in the garden itself. So this is just a way of getting very small particles, because the microbes work on the smallest particles first and getting those into contact with the soil medium. So let's make some up. All right, so we got the scale tared to the bucket here, and we're just going to use this to measure stuff into. This is not going to be the final bucket we're mixing into. This is just so that we can measure out 5 pounds. We're going to be making a 5-gallon bucket of it today. So I got my rock dust right here. This is just basically Pacific Northwest. I think actually this is from Canada, which is pretty close to where we are. And it's basalt rock dust. It's ground up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put 5 pounds of this in the bucket. As you can see, that's already a pound per scoop, so it's going to take about 5 scoops. This should be pretty close. Ooh, we got a little over.
It looked right on to me. Now it's under.
Now it's under, now it's over, now it's over. Okay, close is close enough. Okay, so we got approximately 5 pounds in there. And now what we're going to do is just very simply, we get our 5-gallon pail, put this in it, start mixing the water in it, and then we just let it cover it and set it aside and let the heaviest material settle out of the water. And what will be left will be our rock dust water. So let's get that part done. So we're just going to dump this in our 5-gallon pail, and we just get that in here and try not to make too much dust. I put a little water in the bottom to try to capture any kind of dust that might come out. So we got a bit. And then I'm just going to drop that in there like that and make a big mess. No professionals here today. Okay, so the actual mixing itself, what I try to do is agitate it as much as I can. So I'm going to put it kind of on a, pretty heavy stream.
And it still poops.
Yeah, it still poops. Try not to breathe it. Maybe missed it a little bit over the top. There we go. That kind of cut it down. All right, so I'm just going to mix this up. And I filled it about halfway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit and use my hand to make sure it's all stirred up. And then, yeah, see, it's already, I can already feel it. Most of it's already in the solution itself. So and this is just rock dust water, so it's not going to hurt your hand or anything like that, other than the fact that the water is about 45 degrees. Other than that, it's just great. So just finished filling it up. I'm going to turn this to a little bit more gentle fill since I'm getting halfway up. Wipe all my spray off. I'm going to fill it up to about 1 inch before the top. That's about 5 gallons.
Can you show us that from the other side?
What's that?
The other side, closest to you.
What about it? Oh. I'm going to fill it about 1 inch to the top. Okay, now this may look really similar to anybody who's in the Pacific Northwest who may have remembered the volcanic eruption of Mount St. Helens. Now that would really date you. I got to tell you, I was 20 years old when it happened. But when you look at rivers that are, coming off of glaciers or things of that nature, it's really kind of the same thing. You see that milky color of the water. That's kind of the same thing that we're doing here. We're creating that basically suspended in solution enough of those small finer particles. And that is what we're, once the heavier stuff settles out, that's what we're going to be using for the plants. So all we need to do now is just put a cover on this and set it aside. So then let's take a look, after we cover this, let's take a look at one that's been already in use, and you can kind of see what the actual rock water looks like. Okay, so this one's been sitting for a few days. Actually, I think I've already used some of it out of it a few days ago. A little bit. Now you can see the difference here is dramatically different than what we just mixed up. I mean, if you look at what we mix up, you can see the colors changed. The opacity it's a little lighter, I guess, if that's the right word for it. And these are the small particle. And so to decant off is what you're going to be doing. Try not to disturb the material that's down below. And you just kind of gently bring it up. Now what's difficult to see on here is basically it's just like a little cloudy water. So the material is just a little cloudy, and that's the rock dust small particles, and it's suspended in the water. And this is what's perfect now for using for fertilizing your plants. There's no odor to it. Well, maybe a little rock, kind of ground rock smell, but that's not really a smell. And it's just a perfect to use now. You could use this by itself, or use it in conjunction like with a worm extract, which is what we're going to do. So let's make some worm extract. Okay, to make the worm extract, all we're going to do is a couple of tablespoons of worm castings, and we're going to put it in our handy dandy mesh bag. And then we'll just take and use a strong stream of lukewarm water to run over the bag in a container, and it will knock off all the good stuff from the castings themselves into the container. And that's all there is to it. You don't, I think we've covered this before in other videos, but just wanted to review that, because this is a really odorless, very nutritious fertilizer that you can use on your houseplants. We're going to use it on our houseplants today. We use it on all our transplants. And it just, mixed with the rock dust water, it really gives it a nice boost.
Rock dust water on our houseplants?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because what we're going to do is, once we make up the extract of this in this container called coffee can, we're going to mix it half and half rock water, half extract. So we'll get like 2 containers of this out of it. So let's do the extract and then get on it. Okay, so we're just going to make up some lukewarm water here, and then we just hit the sack with the water stream, kind of just gently agitating it, and it's going to knock off the majority of that material from those castings through the mesh and suspend it in the solution. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, give it a little squeeze. Yep, we got most of it off. And there it is. And that's all there is to that. So then, we're going to take half of this, pour it into our container. And then we're going to take our rock dust water, fill it up, and that is an excellent brew for houseplants or anything else. Do you smell anything, Mrs.
Yes,
Producer?
I do.
What do you smell?
Earthy.
Earthy. Okay, is it bad?
No, but noticeable.
Oh, interesting. You just ruined the whole theory.
Sorry.
But I have been using this on the houseplants. Really, you smell earthy?
When you first did this.
You smell anything?
Mm-hmm.
Is it bad?
No.
Okay, so we've got it in our handy dandy little watering can, and these guys are just going to get a little drenching. There's still a bit of dampness here, but they just germinated, so they're just kind of babies, and I just want to make sure that we got enough stuff here.
These are all our veggies, right?
Right. This is hack-rye turnips on one end. The bunching onions are just coming up. And then over here we've got broccolis and some cabbages. Cauliflower. We're going to have to thin these guys out a little bit. And then in this tray over here are spinach. I think these are Savoy leaf type.
Yes.
And I got some lettuce that we'll have to thin these guys out. And then, unfortunately, this is another example of old seed. This was Skyfoss lettuce seed, and we only got one out of it. I mean, it's just pretty bad. So that's it. We just kind of hit these guys once a week with this, and they'll start greening up pretty good. So that's all there is to the fertility thing that we're doing with the seedlings and with the houseplants. Okay,
you're on
jazz hands. What? Yeah, it's in it.
Just start.
Okay, so this is what we did for. Okay, we're gonna be serious now. Serious. Well, thanks for coming along, and we showed you how we did the fertilization. We just gave you a couple of examples of fertilizing some of the first vegetable starts we did last week that have germinated, and we'll use that mixture of worm extract and RockDust pretty much through to transplant. Then once we get them transplanted in the ground, we will probably then begin to add in also to the Jadam liquid grass fertilizer that we have been using on pretty successfully in our tunnels on our flowers. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to work out pretty good. So I want to thank you for joining us today, and as always, stay safe out there and have a good day. Bye-bye.